Hi, good evening. This is Tammy Austin, and welcome to my live tonight talking about divorce adjustment and specifically finding your flow after divorce. Divorce is not easy. In fact, it's one of the hardest. It's one of the hardest events that we can go through in life. Um, Divorce can leave us pretty scarred and pretty beat up. And so, with that being said, I have a guest with me who will be joining shortly, and her name is Joanna Howard, and she is actually a career coach, and her background is in human resources, and I'm really looking forward to having her on. Tonight, we're going to start off with a lot of statistics. I always like to start off with statistics just to give you all a basis for what we're going to be talking about tonight. And at the same time, to let you know if you are in the process of divorce or having gone through a divorce, of which I count myself in that process as well, having been through a divorce. So when I speak tonight, I can speak actually from personal experience. But anyway, I just want you to know you're not alone, that you matter. You're not alone. You matter. And that people are depending on you. And people are depending on you to be there. So as difficult as it may be, hi Joanna, just waiting for you to come on in. As the process may be, as alone and isolated as you may feel, people are depending on you and need you to be here. Hi Joanna, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here tonight.
I'm going to have you, I've been talking for a little bit, and so people know who I am. I'm a licensed therapist in Florida, and I am also a life and relationship coach. So when I speak, I'm coming from a variety of different hats that I wear. I was also saying, Joanna, before you came on, that I too have experienced divorce. And so some of the things that I speak from tonight will be actually a page from my own book and things that I remember walking through that process. And I was just saying to people, wherever you are in the process, you're not alone. You're not alone. People need you, depend on you, want you to be here. But again, we know how rough and tough divorce can be. So with that being said, Joanna, I'm going to have you introduce yourself and tell our audience a little bit about you and what you do.
Okay. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Joanna Howard, and I am a certified coach, speaker, and trainer. I do a lot of my training online via webinars and online training courses, but I also work with clients one-on-one to coach them through life experiences, and that could be anywhere from, finding a new job to life coaching issues. So I am super excited to be here. I hope that this session will give a lot of people encouragement because divorce is hard and it is something that nobody likes to talk about. It is the big taboo subject. So I'm here to just shed some light on my experience. I am currently going through a divorce right now. It is not finalized yet, but there are so many things I have learned throughout this process. So my goal is to come here and just to kind of talk about my experience, my transition, what I needed to do from start to finish. So I'm super excited to be here, and thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Hi, Juwan. And let me see. I'm trying to read. Barbara, hi. Thank you for joining. Ina Clark, thank you for joining. Again, I hope that that this message, like the last one, hits the people that need to hear it, and people walk away and say, "Okay, I learned some things." I'm going to start off with some divorce quotes for a moment. And here's an interesting one: divorce is a reality and a right, and it can allow one to pivot, evolve, learn, and grow.
All right, I like it. I can definitely agree with that statistic. I mean, people and even myself, divorce was like, I thought it was the end of the world. Like, oh my God, who am I now? Who's gonna ever want me? All of these terrible things. But Divorce is not the end of anything. If not, it can be the beginning of something that's new, something that's fresh, something that's wonderful. And it's all hindsight and how you think about things. Not saying I wanted a divorce. I'm not sitting here saying that, oh, yeah, I wanted a divorce. Sign me up. It was never anything like that. But I am saying that, once I sat back and really thought about it, really, really thought about everything that happened, everything that I went through, this is a new opportunity for me to do something new and for me to grow as a human being. So I'm super excited about that, having that second opportunity to do that.
All right, amen to that. I was saying before you came on, I'm going to start with some statistics because, again, I just think to help people know kind of where you are in this thing. So I'm going to talk about some statistics on divorce rates based on race. So African Americans are the highest among all the races when it comes to divorce. We come in at 30.8% of all divorces. Yep. Hispanics come in at 18.5%, and the white divorce rate is 12.4%. And these statistics are fresh from October of 2022.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's any background as to why, why do African Americans have a higher rate of divorce? Like, what are some of the determining factors? That's what I'm curious about.
Well, actually, I'm going to actually get into that too, because, and here's the flip side: who stays married? When it comes to who stays married, Asians come in at 61%, African Americans at 31%, Caucasians at 55%, and Hispanics at 48%. It comes to who stays married. Now, when you said sort of the kind of what impacts the divorces, the divorce reasons, 23.5% of all marriages end due to domestic violence.
Oh, wow. That's unfortunate.
Yeah. 75% of marriages end due to lack of commitment. So, again, as I read these, think about what group has the highest number of divorces, and then so again, if you think about a pie, and if we make up 30% of the pie, at least 30% of the pie when it comes to divorces, and then yet 75% of divorces end due to lack of commitment of that 31% of the pie, almost a third of the pie. 59.6% of divorces end due to infidelity. 57.7% of divorces end due to constant arguing and fighting. And that, communication. Communication is like the heart of. 45.1% of marriages end due to, believe it or not, marrying too young. Marrying too young. Sometimes you don't know that package. You think you know, but you don't know that package.
I wonder what they define as being too young, though. Like, what is the age group for that?
You know what? I didn't see that. Thank you, Black Butterfly. I see, yes, communication. Communication is huge, huge, huge. 36.1% of marriages end due to financial problems. But again, I like that. Communication is really like the heart and soul of what keeps your marriage together. Because if you cannot communicate, you cannot identify common goals. You cannot, it's like going on a road trip with someone. And again, if you can't communicate, it's like going on a road trip, and every time one of you falls asleep, the car ends up going in a different direction. And then when you wake up and you ask your partner, wait, why are we going west? I thought we were going east. I don't know. I just felt like it. Well, why are we going? I don't know. Just felt like it.
Right.
Yep, exactly. Yes. And so in so many marriages, that's what stalls. I know as a therapist, that's probably one of the biggest reasons people seek therapy is because of communication and not being able to get to repair. Not being able to get that part on the road. Pardon?
I said, I definitely agree. Not being heard, not being seen in the marriage, it could definitely put some strain on there. Even people that I have counseled doing life coaching have mentioned that to me. I always like to use the analogy of as a car. If if you have your car, you never get the oil change, you never pay attention to it, you never do the maintenance that you need to do on it, what's going to happen with it? It's going to break down. I feel like that's the same way with any marriage. If you don't put that time and effort into it, if you don't communicate, if you don't see the other person, if you don't try to grow with the other person, then what is going to happen? It's going to break down. So, yeah, I think communication is probably one of the big things, probably even more than the other ones that I can see where a marriage would not work if you're not communicating, if you're not seeing the other person, if you don't value the other person, if you're not, trying to put in the effort that you need to put in. And a lot of times when I'm counseling people, I also notice that, the person in the beginning did these things and now all of a sudden they're not. It's almost like you get into a state of complacency where, I'm married now, or I've been married for a long time, I ain't got to do what I did, to get her or whatever. But the other partner, whether it be the male or the female, they're like, well, wait a minute. You done got me used to this. Flowers and roses and taking me dancing and all this stuff, and now all of a sudden nothing. So they're like at a loss, like, who are you? The person I married is not the person who you are now. So, but I do think the longer you've been married, how sometimes you do fall into that role of complacency. We've been together 100 years. I ain't got to do all that anymore. But in reality, you should always be courting your wife. You should always be courting your husband. You should always be dating them, finding out about them, finding out about the new thing. Because the person you marry at 25 may not be the same person at 35. Exactly. And you have to learn how to grow with that individual in order to keep the marriage alive. You have to understand that they are not the person you married 10 years ago, and that's okay. But let me find out who this new person is and appreciate the new and start loving the new things about this person. Now, you don't want that person to change it, like you can't even recognize them. You should recognize your husband. You should recognize your spouse, whether it be your wife or your husband. But you also have to appreciate that they are older now. They're different now. They think about things differently, and you have to learn how to grow with them.
But again, I think we're speaking to the communication piece. Mm-hmm. And I talk with a lot of the couples that I work with. We talk about emotional connection. And along with that comes the trust and the transparency and the vulnerability. Because again, that relationship should be your safe space. And when you have a partner that doesn't see you, or doesn't value you, or just never validates anything about you, doesn't recognize your distress, then you can't feel safe there. And so, again, when we go back to these statistics, and even when we're talking about, when you ask the question, why is it that African Americans top that list? And you have to wonder, why is it that we struggle? And I know, and along with that, I'm just overjoyed to see the number of people that seek me out for premarital. Premarital, because we go in deep. Because I feel like when you walk down that aisle, you need to know enough about that person. Because so many times I've heard people say he or she changed after we got married. And I'm always saying they could not have changed. Unfortunately, you may not have seen who they were showing you that they are.
Who they really were.
They really were. And I talk a lot about the representatives, because again, the representatives, you can sustain that representation for quite a while until life comes at you. And so people will say like that, the person all of a sudden, either they actually are withdrawn, they're mean, all of these kinds of things. And you have to wonder, did you see some sign of that?
I know like a lot of people that I counsel, they're really like they saw signs, but they kind of, because you were so in love. And look, I read this quote and it says, you can fall in love, lead with your heart, but make sure you take your mind with you. So it's like a lot of these things we see, but because we're so head over heels in this person that we just kind of be like, oh, he'll change, or, oh, that was just a one-time thing. It's like, lead with your heart, but make sure you take your mind, and make sure if you see something that could be a possible red flag, that you open your eyes and be like, well, wait a minute, we need to address this, because you don't want to, go ahead and marry this person and then find out this is who he really is. But before, he never exhibited any of this behavior except that one time you saw it and you didn't address it. So I think it's super important. I always say that people can only fake it for so long. And some people can fake for years, but eventually their true self is going to come out. That really can destroy a marriage when you find out that somebody is not who you thought they were. And you're like, you're taken aback. And it's like, I've definitely spoke to several people where this has happened to, and it's like, my heart breaks for them, because it's like you question everything. That one little thing makes you question everything about yourself. Why did I not see this? Why did I not pick on the signs? You even question whether or not you can make decisions. Like, should I even make a decision? Because obviously the decision I made before was not, right. So you don't want to put yourself in that. But I'm a firm believer of pre-counseling before marriage. I think it is definitely, especially in this day and age, because people are meeting online, people are doing all this other stuff. They can be whatever they want to. And then you marry them and it's like, who are you and who did I marry?
Right.
So you have to be very careful out there nowadays. And I think that you should know as much as you can, and you should go deep. I mean, finance, I mean, health, I mean, everything. What your credit looking like, everything. What happened to you as a child? I mean, everything.
And we go in
to go deep. You need to go deep.
We go into all of those areas in the premarital, because, what happened to you as a child truly is going to show up. Again, when you think about the stress of life and those pressures that come on, that's when we're going to start to see who that person really is, and how they cope in the world, and how they cope in the difficult times. For example, I think one of the things, as we're talking about divorce, and especially a concern that I have which I've seen now with so many women, they fail to realize that when they're going through a divorce, it's every man and woman for themselves. And what I have seen is just that's heartbreaking. Women are often stunned by the way that their mates treat them when they're going through divorce. I mean, and when I say fighting dirty, maligning character, all kinds of things. And I think for women, when you're attacked at being a mom, or someone is saying or questioning if you should have custody of the kids, that just, things like that. And we know sometimes it's motivated by, I don't want to pay child support. Plain and simple. And so, but attacking women, I'm going to say where they live. Or, in some cases where if the woman was the main breadwinner in the family, if she was the main earner in the family, all of a sudden now those tables are turned, and that's all up for grabs. Everything that she worked for, everything that she brought into the relationship. And somebody says it's shocking. It is shocking. And I think, again, as a therapist, trying to help women walk through that process, because they're devastated on so many fronts. They love this person. They let them in. They thought this person was going to be the protector, and then to find out. Let's see. Someone said you'll see signs 3 to. I got my new big glasses on. I'm trying to see. You'll see signs 3 to 6 months. Most can't sustain the representation past 12 years. That's true. Beyond that point, we're questioning reality because we invested time instead of being willing to walk away. That's a good point. So many times women will say, I have invested X number of years, and so they're waiting on that return on investment. And then I have to say sometimes, okay, here's the big question. When you have to ask yourself, and your prayer is, dear God, please don't let me die in this. I'm going to say that again. Dear God, don't let me die in this. Don't let this be it. Don't let this be it. And we're still sitting in there waiting on return on investment. Oh, I'm sorry. You meant to say 1 year. Okay. Yes. Okay. Can't sustain the represent. But something. I have seen where people have sustained that representative for years, and then one day it's like they just come in one day and they tell the person, "I don't want to do this anymore."
Either that, or the mask falls off.
Yeah.
The mask that they so craftively put on for the last, years or whatever, and now all of a sudden it slips off, and you see a side of them you've never seen before. So I definitely agree. I think as women, we tend to, just because of our nature, we're nurturers by nature. I mean, I'm not saying all women, I'm not speaking for all women, but I know the majority of women are nurturers. So we tend to, we will nurture a thing even though it's been dead 10 years.
Yeah.
And it's like we will try to make those dry bones live. We will try to breathe life into that situation, and we already know it's dead. But there is a lot of fear, and a lot of women don't leave because of fear, because they're comfortable, because the lifestyle that they have, because they don't want to see their significant other with somebody else. I mean, it's all these reasons. But at the end of the day, are you happy? And that's what I ask my clients. Are you happy? If you woke up 20 years from now and you're in the same exact position, are you happy? Are you willing to invest another 20 years in this life? And it is something to think about. And I think, with some of the people that I counsel and some of the people that, I have talked to about this thing is, when it gets to that point where you're like, I cannot stand another day, or I cannot do this anymore, it's like that's when the people decide it's time, the individual decide it's time to leave. And that could be male or female, when enough is enough. I have done all I can do. I've put in all I can put in, and it's still not working. And you know what? It's enough is enough. So you have to get to the point, and the individual has to get to that point, because people can tell them to leave. People always give you unwarranted advice. Let's just get that straight. They know exactly what you should do in that situation.
That is true.
And what I find, most people would give you advice they wouldn't even take in their own situation, okay? So you have to determine who to listen to and who not to. But it's like, until you get fed up in your own self and say, look, I am tired. I cannot do this anymore.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to change.
And speaking of that, to talk for a moment about the stages of divorce, and you and I talked about this yesterday, the stages of divorce, denial, just like death and dying, because again, It is the death and the dying of a relationship. And so as we say that, there's the denial. This can't really be happening. We aren't really growing apart. He or she is not really cheating on me. Somebody said, "Yeah, you can't water what's dead." But we tried. We still tried.
We tried.
Anger is the next thing, and as I read these stages, they don't go in any order. And I want to add that throughout the process, you can go back through these again. But there's denial, there's anger, bargaining. That old big please bargaining, depression. And acceptance, finally. Acceptance. Now, interestingly enough, the depression stage is identified as the hardest stage. And people, you are depressed for that season because, again, you're grieving. And here's the thing. Sometimes you can be in a marriage for years and you've been grieving what could have been, what should have been. And so you're still in the thing, waiting to see. Again, that's that trying to water that thing when it's dead. But I'm just waiting to see, can it come back? But I'm still grieving in that process. I'm still grieving in that process.
Yes, and it definitely does. As even in my situation right now, I definitely went through all of those stages. And depression was a big one in the beginning. And it's like it comes at different spurts. There's sometimes I would be okay, and then the next time I couldn't get out of bed the next day. But it was a sense of loss. It was a sense of, a loss of security, a loss of, love, a loss of like, what am I going to do next? All these things that I, experienced during that time. And it's like, these things come and go. Even now, I'm sitting here talking about it now, and who knows, something can trigger, a moment or something, and I'm like, oh, well, dang, So I just want to encourage people that, yes, you will go through all of these stages at various times, not in any particular order, but it's okay. Give yourself grace to go through those stages. Give yourself grace, because it is hard. Divorce is hard. When you look at divorce, you're not just separating, the relationship didn't just die. There's other things. It's like literally when God puts two people together, you become one flesh. And when you separate that, it is a pain like no other. I would tell my friends as I was going through this process that I was hurting, like physically hurting. I felt like my heart was hurting. And I can't even explain it because I look fine on the outside. There's nothing medically wrong with me, but I hurt in places I didn't even think I could hurt. It was a pain like no other. And for me, it was like, it really took me some time because I remember one night I was just like, I would be strong all day for my kids. As soon as they would go to sleep, I would lock myself in my room and I would just bawl like for hours. Like I was not sleeping, I was not eating. I was just so sad. And so, this is not what I thought my life would be like moment. And I remember I had been doing this literally for almost 3 weeks. And I was just so much grieving the loss of this relationship. And I cried out to God and I was like, look, if you don't help me with this, I'm not going to make it. I mean, I literally felt like I was not going to make it. I was so sad and so depressed and grieving so much. I just literally cried out and was like, if you don't help me, I can't make it. And I remember I boo-hooed that night and I got up the next day and I have not cried like that since. But it was basically, it's like literally I felt like, my life had just been destroyed. I mean, I don't even know how to put it, but I had physical pain, but there was nothing wrong with me. So I don't want people to see or to act like that I'm an advocate for divorce. I am not. If you can make your marriage work, if you guys can work it out, then I say definitely do that. But the one thing that I have learned about divorce is that you have to have two people on the same, who have the same goal, who are working towards the same thing in order for it to work. If you are doing all the work or your spouse is doing all the work and you're not putting any effort in, it is not going to work. And it doesn't matter if you try a year, 2 years, 7 years, 8 years. It will not work if you're doing it on your own. You have to have the other person's participation. They have to have the effort. They have to be putting in the work just like you are. Marriage is work. Relationships are work. So, yeah.
We are. We absolutely are. I have another statistic. I got statistics tonight. We talked about the divorce reasons. I wanted to talk about for a moment the divorce rates by age. National divorce rates for adults ages 25 to 39 is 24 and for every 1,000 persons. Ages 40 to 49 is 21 for every 1,000 persons. And ages 50 and above is 10 in every 1,000 persons. Mm-hmm. And so, it doesn't, and I'm going to say, I saw a statistic not too long ago that said the 60 plus crowd is the ones right now, the highest number of getting divorced because COVID. Okay, when the world stopped, COVID showed you, like on the real tip, COVID showed you who you were living with, and for a lot of people, I think for a lot of people, unfortunately, because of the precarious times we were living in for the last 2 years, you had to really say, is this somebody I want to spend whatever time I got left? Is this somebody I want to be with? And I think a lot of people said no. This is not. And so divorce rates actually did go up, since during COVID and since COVID. And so with that being said, I think, this says a lot as we're talking tonight about really knowing who you are marrying, who you are partnering with, who you are trying to build a life with, and really paying attention to all those little things that you see. And but more importantly, checking in with yourself to see what feels right for you. And I'll never forget, this was a long time ago, but I had a colleague, the invitations had gone out, everything had gone out, everything was set. And most people, because I've talked to people and I've asked them, when you walked down that aisle and you said, I do, were you at peace? And they said no. And every time when they said no, they didn't listen to that. And so here, later, here they are dealing with whatever that thing was that they didn't have peace about. But this friend of mine, she actually, with all of that said and done, she actually canceled the wedding, which most people would not have done that. They would have said, "Oh no, everything's been sent out. I can't possibly." We got to listen to that thing, and we also have to learn how to be able to trust ourselves enough to say,
Right. Trust your instincts. We know when there's something not right. We may not know what it is, but if there's any sign that there's something right, that's a red flag, and we need to listen to those. And we need to be bold enough to address them and be like, hey, I don't know what's going on, but something doesn't set right. We need to hold off until, I get peace. But you're right. I don't think most men or women would, probably would have still gone through with it because everything is paid for. You can't, all my family is there, I don't want to embarrass him. I don't want to embarrass myself. So,
yeah, no, I think that one right there. What are people going to say?
Right. Yeah, we're worried about the people. The people who have no influence in our lives whatsoever. We're worried about them.
Yeah, what are they going to say? What are they going to think? So let's talk about for a moment what happens when we accept. And this is the part, kind of finding your flow, finding your groove again, because you absolutely can find your groove again. Mm-hmm. So when we talk about, or when we think about, what happens when we finally get to acceptance? Life has changed, and I don't want to make it sound at all like it's a walk in the park, because for some people, divorce can be financially devastating. Whether you're the man or the woman, divorce can be financially devastating. So that's one. Sometimes it can seem like I'm never gonna come back from this. And then we didn't even talk tonight about the parental alienation syndrome, when you got parents trying to turn the kids against each other and fighting through the kids. And then you got baby mama drama and all those other kind of things, or daddy drama, and all those kinds of things, when you are trying to move on and you got a partner that has to bring the drama. So again, there's so many factors. We didn't get into that. We also didn't get into attachment tonight and our attachment style, because that has so much to do with what happens when we finally say we're done. It triggers all of that old buried stuff. So, talking about when we get to acceptance.
I know for me, getting to acceptance, I realized that I had to fall back in love with myself again. And I know that may sound strange to some people, but literally I spent so long in this relationship that I didn't even know who I was. Like, I spent so long being somebody else's wife, somebody's mom, all these things. But it was like, when it came to me, it's like, Joanna, what do you really want? Who are you? What do you like?
Who are you?
You spend all this time taking care of everybody else, doing everything for everybody else, pouring into everybody else. But I had learned, like, during that time, I forgot who I was. I forgot what I liked. I forgot what were my dreams? What were my goals? What things that I inspired to do and to be? So I had to, for me, it was basically getting to know myself all over again. Taking myself out on a date, going to movies by myself, buying myself something, getting myself a massage, getting my feet done, getting my hair done, getting my eyebrows done is something I had never done before. I'm like, okay, let's try this, But I'm just saying, it was little things like that. I had to love on myself to build myself back up, because when you go through a divorce, it does take a toll on your self-esteem. It does take a toll on your self-confidence, because it's like, what's wrong with me? Why can I make this work? All these things are going through your mind, but it's like, in reality, you have to get back to you and loving yourself and treating yourself kind and treating yourself right. And I'm, for one, am not standing here saying I was 100% perfect in my marriage. Nobody is. But at some point, you have to forgive yourself, and you have to say, you know what? I missed it. I thought this is what it was, and it wasn't, and it's okay. Give yourself some grace, love on yourself, get your self-esteem, get your self-confidence back up, and just find out who you are, what you want. As I'm getting to learn myself more, I know one thing, there's some things I will not settle for now. So it's like, I have a different perspective on, and I always say this, I believe I will be married again, because I love the institution of marriage. I love love. So I know that I will be married. I know I'm supposed to be somebody's wife. So I know that this is going to come up again, but I know that there's certain things I'm not going to overlook anymore. There's certain things that I will not not accept anymore, just is because I know what the cost of that is. I know what I pay, for because of that. So yeah, but I think we just need to fall in love with yourself again. Find out who you are. Find out who you are. Find out what you want. Treat yourself kind. Date yourself. Spend time with you, and really just take some time out to just to do that, just to love on yourself.
And I think too, just the recovery of it. Mm-hmm. And by that I'm saying the recovery of truly taking time for yourself, mm-hmm. because again, it's very different. It's different. People will say it's kind of like, oh, this broke or that broke, and I didn't know what to do about it. Mm-hmm. And they don't necessarily want to call, the other person to come fix it. But okay, so it's an opportunity. I got to learn. I'm
just gonna be open, honest, and transparent. My biggest issue being single was killing bugs. There was a lizard that got in my house, and I was like literally on the floor crying, like, what? Who's gonna kill this thing? Who am I gonna call? And then I was depressed because I don't have anybody to call to come get this thing. So it was different for me because I always had a husband who, if there was a bug, he would go get it. If something broke, he would go fix it. And now I got to figure out how to do it myself, and it brought like a level of anxiety for me. Like, oh my gosh, am I going to be able to?
But we learned. There are some very nice tools, and we got something called YouTube.
Right.
YouTube can help you.
Girl, look, and the kids down the street will come in and get the bug for you.
Yeah, there you go.
All you have to do is ask. So it's like just finding out little things that I never had to take care of. Now I'm having to take care of it. But, that was a big thing. It's like, oh my God, there's nobody here to kill the bugs anymore, No, and it's like, that is something so little, but it was an issue for me. And it was like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? There was a level of fear. There was a level of fear there.
Let me see.
So it is like.
Sweet Tea said, yes, you're right. Acceptance is not a walk in the park. It can come in ebbs and flows, especially when you may be trauma bonded. Thank you for that. Trauma bonded to your relationship. Yes. And that trauma bond thing it's real. Trauma bonds, strongholds, all of those things. It will keep us soul ties. All of those things that will keep us connected to the thing that we don't need to be connected to. And you're right. The doubt will come in. And the moment maybe something like the bug gets in your house or something breaks, you're then questioning, did I do the right thing? Did I do the right thing by leaving? But again, that's where we have to learn how to be able to check in with ourselves and trust ourselves, because we remember what it felt like when we were in that perhaps toxic relationship or that unfulfilling relationship or that loveless relationship. And so we have to remember. Another thing that comes from acceptance is that, there will be good days and there will be bad days. But there's a mindset shift that comes in. Because like Joanna is saying, we learn how to love ourselves again, to fall in love with ourselves. We learn how to have boundaries. We learn how to say no when we really want to say no. We learn how to let our yeses be yes and our no's be no. And we learn when something doesn't feel right, regardless of the words that are coming out of somebody's mouth, if the actions are not lining up, we know how to say, wait a minute now. Wait a minute now. We know how to do that. We know how to do that. And we learn how to be able to say, you know what, I'm worth the wait.
Right.
I'm worth the wait. I'm worth the wait.
You put more value on yourself. So you learn to value yourself and the gifts and the talents and all the things that you have to bring to a relationship. You no longer, I know with me, I no longer take that for granted. I'm no longer going to settle for what someone feels like they can give me. It's like, no, we're not going to do that. This is what I'm bringing to the table. This is what I need you to bring. But it's not like you get a cold heart. So that's not what I'm advocating right now, is to have a closed heart and to become this super independent woman that you don't need a man or anything like that. No, for one, I want a man. It's like, I am not she. I don't want to be independent. I don't want to do this. Now, I think as a woman, I am independent, but I like to have a partner. I don't want to do this by myself. I don't want to live life by myself. Yeah. So I think you got to get to the point where you're like, I don't want to settle anymore, and I'm not going to anymore.
Yeah, I want to ask something. We have a couple folks on. Thank you for joining us tonight. Are there, I don't know, what are your thoughts about what you're hearing so far? So we're going to sit tight for a minute and just kind of watch the feed. But what do you think about what you're hearing? What are your thoughts?
Do you guys disagree? Do you agree? Like, what are some of your opinions? What have some of y'all gone through? Because I know a lot of y'all have gone through divorce. Somebody who's gone through divorce. So yeah, talk to us. Let us know. What are you thinking? What are you feeling?
Thank you. Black Butterfly says great information. Thank you. That was the goal tonight. That was the goal. That was the goal. I'll tell you, the grief process was the hardest. Yes. But joy comes in the morning. But it's different for everybody. It's different for everybody. And I'm going to tell you, one of the things as a therapist that I love to see when clients that I work with, when they were just broken and going through, and then one day they call me and they say, hey, and they tell me about the person that they met. And the smile is just, and the happiness is just like, oh, and you know what? They want to come in and they want to do a little committed relationship stuff. Like, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. And so people want to make sure, I don't want to go down that road again. And I want to make sure that I know the partner, the person that I'm going to be with. I want to really know this person. And more importantly, I want to know that we know how to communicate. We know how to get to repair. We know how to put the car back on the road when we have some issues. So, yes.
I know Black Butterfly just mentioned something in the comments that she said she thanks God for therapy. One of the things that I have learned is that it's okay not to be okay. And because I am considered like one of the strong ones in my family, and most people automatically just thought I was okay. And I was like, I was spiraling out of control, like spiraling headfirst into hopelessness, But because people are so used to seeing you being strong and seeing you taking care of things and you being okay, it's like nobody checked on me because they thought I had it, And here I am, like literally hanging on by the skin of my teeth, So during that time, like literally, I did seek out a therapist because I didn't know how to process what I was going through. Like it was so much going on. And when I tell you so much going on, it wasn't just the end of my marriage. It was several things. I lost a family member to cancer. I couldn't find a job. It was just everything was happening at once, and I literally felt like I was going to lose my mind, and I was internalizing all of it. So it's like I didn't say anything to anybody. Nobody knew what I was going through on the inside. I kept that smile on my face. I went to work. I did this. I did that. I never showed anything, but I was literally dying in the inside until, I was able to get someone who just let me process it. Just let me talk. They didn't offer no advice. They just let me process what I was going through and help me figure out what to do next. Not them telling me what to do next, but help me come to the conclusion on what I needed to do for my sanity, for my mental health, to do next. And I thank God for that, because if I had not had that, guys, I don't even know if, I would hate to think what would have happened if I had not had that, because I wasn't used to asking for help. This was the first time in my life where I actually had to ask people for help. And it was a very uncomfortable thing for me. It was a very, it was just something I had never done before. So it's very hard for me. But therapy was the best thing that ever happened to me. So that was one of the key things I take away. It's okay not to be okay. It's okay. Give yourself some grace.
Patricia said, but you get tired of being strong. And I think there's got to come a point when, we think about how Stella got her groove back. But, somewhere in there, I would say Stella needed to make some time to just let it go for a while. And Stella just not having to be so strong. And I think that's important, to take those breaks and not keep holding. Because, again, it's almost like if somebody gave you a bottle of water to hold. And they said, can you hold this water for me for 20 minutes? You could do this. You could hold it for 20 minutes. But now I'm holding it for 20 years. I'm holding it for 20 years. Yeah, so.
And you get tired.
like Juana, I know I will be married again. Listen, I have not been called to be Apostle Paul. LOL. Independence is the word of the day.
I know that's
what
right.
I want.
Speak it. Look, I be telling you, God is preparing my boat as right now, okay? He just get him ready for me right now. So yes, you speak that thing, because I won't allow this experience to make me give up on love. And that's something that I want to be in love. And I believe because I have that desire that I'll have what my heart's desire. So no, I stand firm. I will be married again.
And I can't tell you how many times I tell people, listen, they can't see it. They can't see it when they're going through. And I'm telling them, because I've seen people on the other side, you are going to get to the other side. And you're going to look back. I've had people say, if I had any idea this was over here,
right.
Like,
I'd have hurried up and got through.
To the left, yeah.
I'd have ran through that hill and but yes, yes. And I can tell you one thing that has been an encouragement to me. So I'm a podcaster I listen to. There's certain people that I follow, but I love to hear a story that, somebody, and let me tell you how good, just things that have happened to me as my divorce. So the first couple months after my divorce, I remember I called Safe Touch, and I had to get everything changed out of my husband's name into my name. And I was telling the person, she asked me why, and I said, I'm going through a divorce. And literally, I started crying. Like, literally, I'm on the phone with somebody from Safe Touch. Don't even know this woman. And she said, let me tell you something. She was like, 4 years ago, I went through the same thing. My husband left me and had 2 kids. And get this, her kids were the same age as my kids. She said, I had 2 kids. My husband left me, and I'm not saying my husband left me or anything, but I'm just saying this was her story. She was like, my husband left me. I was financially, going through, couldn't find anything. She's like, today, 4 years later, I am happily remarried. That man loves the mess out of me. He loves my children. She's like, I am so happy. She's like, everything that I thought I lost, I don't got tenfold. I love to hear a good comeback story from that. That encourages the socks out of me because, it's like, you know what? If you did it for her, you can do it for me. Like, if she got that, then darn it, I'm going to get that too. So I love to hear stories where people, because you do get into the point where sometimes you feel like you're the only one going through this, or there's like a hopelessness, but, there is light at the end of the tunnel. You just got to get through it. You got to get through. You got to get up. You got to show up every day. You got to, you got to work on you and don't worry about the other person. You work on you and do what you need to do to take care of yourself. And you will find that light is at the end of the tunnel. Will it be hard? Yes. Yes, it will be hard. I ain't going to sit here and be like it's all peaches and cream. It will be hard. But once you put in the effort and the work and you get to the other side, you'll look back on there and be like, oh my gosh. And I'm going to do something real quick. So during this time while I was going through, and in the early stages of my divorce, I just was writing. Like, I am a writer. I'm an author by trade. I've written a couple books, but I started writing poetry. Who even knew I had poetry in me? But I started writing, but I was going back the other day, actually preparing for this live and just reading some of the things that I wrote. And I was like, oh my God, to look at me then and to look at me now is like a completely different person. And it's like, I have to thank God for the progress. I have to thank God that I didn't stay in that area. But I'm going to just read you something that I wrote. And this happened like in the very, very beginning stages of my divorce. But the poem I wrote is called Today I Cried. And it's like, today I started divorce proceedings. I cried throughout the process. I cried for my loss of love and security. I cried for the uncertainty of my future. I cried for the broken covenant that I made with God. I cried because I have never felt pain like this before. I cried because my mind cannot process the loss. I cried because I have no one to talk to. I cried because I can't put my pain into words. Today I just cried. And that was my thought process, like during that time. I was so overwhelmed by everything that was going on.
And broken.
It was broke. I literally was broken. And I look at that a couple of days ago, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't even know who that person was back then. Like, I can't even imagine being that sad and that depressed now. And that was just like a year ago. So it was like, I thank God for that, because I didn't allow myself to stay there. Like, I kept moving. Even when I didn't feel like it, I kept moving day by day. I kept showing up day by day. I kept, just kept going, just kept going, just kept going. And another thing I always tell people is that you got to have a tribe that won't let you stay there. Now, my tribe has always been small. I have about friends I can count on two hands that literally are my, ride or dies. They have been with me through thick and thin. I know I can trust them. I know I can call on them. It's always been tiny. But let me tell you, these women would not let me stay where I was at. They gave me time to grieve. They gave me time to have my moment. But at the end of the day, what are we doing next? Where are we going? Get up. If I got to come get you, I'm coming to get you. They would not let me stay there. And that's what I say, you got to have those type of friends, because when you're going through, you don't want to get up. You don't want to, you don't want to put your best. You want to lay curled up in the bed, with your ho-hos and bomb crying about what should have, could have, would have been. And it's like, you don't have the desire to do that. But you get you some people in your life who won't allow you to stay, who actually hold you accountable, who make you say, Joanna, you're better than this. You're better than this.
Well, because you're making a good point. You forget by then you have forgotten who you are.
You are, exactly.
You've forgotten who you were. Exactly. And so, like, wait a minute now. Yeah. People that remind you in a good way of who you are. I'm looking at our time, so we're going to have to wrap. But I know we covered a lot tonight. So again, just to summarize, there's some benefits here. And the benefits are that there's an opportunity for a fresh start. And I purposely don't say a start over, because you know what, you've had experiences, you're wiser, you're not starting over. You are going into your next chapter though. And this time you got the pen and you are wisely getting ready to write that next chapter. You're out of a unhappy or unfulfilling or unloving marriage. You can focus on self-improvement. And you can gain improved mental health and emotional well-being. You can do those things. So those are the things that come out of this. And yes, you will be stronger. You will be better. But like you said, Joanna, you got to get out of bed. You got to show up. You got to put one foot in front of the other. And day by day. And day by day. There'll be good days. There'll be bad days. But you will get through.
You will get through. And I would definitely say one of the biggest lessons that I have learned is that divorce does not define who I am, nor does it define God's ability to use me. And that was a lot. That was a big thing for me, because I felt like a failure. I felt like a failure. And I allowed that feeling of failure to stop me from doing a lot of things that I could have done during this time, because of what the people would think or say. Like, how is she gonna do that? She couldn't even make her marriage work or whatever. I was worried about the people and what they thought, And it's like, I have realized that divorce does not define me. That, divorce just means it did not work. It didn't work. We tried and it didn't work. So, but it doesn't define who I am. It doesn't define what I do after this. It doesn't define or affect me from getting married again. It doesn't define who I am as an individual. Absolutely. It just didn't work. It just didn't work.
Let's see. We got a couple amens in there. God will give you beauty for ashes and a big old yes.
Amen.
Absolutely. And so tonight, the ladies that have been hanging in here with us tonight, we appreciate you. I hope this has really been a blessing, and that you know who you are. You know who you are. You know your true worth and value, and you walk in that thing. You walk in that thing. And on that note, we are going to say good night. Joanna, this has been great.
This has been great.
This has absolutely been great. And I'm going to save the recording. Thank you, Black Butterfly. Definitely. Let's do this again, Patricia. Absolutely. Hey, let me ask really quick. What topic would you like to see covered next? We're going to wait a minute. What topic? Give me some topics.
Right. Because I think this is so needed. I mean, this is like real open, honest, and transparent conversations.
Absolutely.
So I love it. I love it.
I'm waiting on what topics? Give me some topics.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Fear. Oh, yes.
I'm going to add one. What about imposter syndrome?
Oh, look. For those of you who don't know, I do some online teaching, and I'm getting ready to release a course in January. And actually, imposter syndrome is one of the course modules. Because let me tell you, that thing right there will stop you in your tracks. Okay.
Okay. Let's see. We got dating after divorce with children. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We have steps towards self-love. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Okay, I need to be writing these down, but I'm going to keep. Okay, so we got self-love,
mm-hmm.
divorce after divorce, after divorce, and dating with children.
Mm-hmm.
Got that. Got it. Anything else?
I have one. We're covering your finances or something to that extent. The one thing that was an eye-opener for me is divorce is really expensive. It is super expensive, and a lot of people, I mean, it's a financial burden on them. So being able to know what steps to take while you're going through, what you need to do after, I think would have been key to know that before I started this process. Is that it really is. It's a big step. But it's not being okay.
There was lonely, and then there's alone. So absolutely, being okay with being alone. Okay. Hey, these are really great topics. I'm just thinking too. What I'm thinking is I'm going to put some tips. Give me a couple days. I'm going to put some tips at the Therapy Unchained website on www.therapyunchained.com. to address some of these topics that came up tonight. But definitely, I am coming to like these lives now. I'm liking this thing because I think for the longest time, and that's why I came up with preparing for your next chapter, being ready for your beloved.
All right now, yes, right. Let's do it.
But I like these because I like it's an opportunity to just sit and talk. I don't have to be anything. I'm not on like that. I can just talk and share. And and hopefully this is just these topics are being a blessing to people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. I'm all for it. All for it.
Yes. Well, it's about 8:56. This has been great. Never know how these are going to turn out. So thank you, ladies, for hanging in with us tonight and bringing these great topics and comments and questions. Thank you so much, and we'll see you all again soon. Thank you, Patricia.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Have a good night, everybody.